Welcome back to Giro3 YouTube channel. In this video we're having a look at a customer's KR-400 that is going to be upgraded to my latest specs. I'm just going to take you for a run through, an introduction basically of what is going to be done. Then I'll be showing you over several little videos which was stitched on this one possibly, of what I've actually physically done, and it's showing it actually done. So basically, but the rotator itself is in really good condition. Even the ring gear is in really good condition. So this is just showing how the condition is. It's like it's had hardly any wear on the gears. The track is very smooth. I mean, it hasn't had much use or abuse, I should say. So bearing ring is. I'm just going to do a bit of polish up in here, but all in all, it's as it was. So it didn't want to do anything to the outside, so it's going to be as it is. Top casing outside it's okay. Inside had some little water damage at some stage, but there's no cracks or anything in here that I could see, and basically, so yeah, it's as he wants it to be. And the bottom housing, very nice inside. The bearing track again is in really good condition. Likewise to the bottom track, this will be polished up a little bit, but now that's about all we're going to be doing to this. So that's the housings. Now this is an old version, or an early version. It only has 3 stacked gears in it, so I'll get that in a second. This is the top gear chassis, or top gear plate, whichever you want to call it. I've already done some minor mods on this already. Before I start better start videotaping this. First thing I normally do to these KR-400s and 600s is I drill a hole diagonally in here to lubricate, especially after I clean all the grease and everything off these. Means that these gears are totally dry and void of any grease. So basically I drill a hole in and do it such a way it's on an angle so I can put oil down in, then I can spin the first gear, move it up and down. I can actually get oil going into this to help lubricate it. So otherwise it's just a nightmare. So this top plate will have limit switches put on. So limit switches will be these roller versions. Since KR-400s don't have limit switches, so this is one of the reasons that I'll be doing the mods I'm doing. So 2 of these sitting like this. We're going to be putting the we're going to be moving the original brake pad, which I've already removed the pad, and the original brake was up here. And if you don't know, the KR-400s have an off-axis motor, so when I push up the shaft here, the shaft moves up and down, which in turn lifts the brake and pad up off a brake pad here. So there's the brake pad. This has already been cleaned up, ready to be stripped down to be modified. So that just now is going to be, it's been removed from here, and it's going to be put into a new location. And I'm going to show you that as well. So basically this is just a quick run through showing what's happening. The motor is in a pretty good condition, so that's there. I just sort of keep that out of the road. Other mods is there'll be the wiring hole will be moved down to the back here. There'll be a new hole put onto the chassis here, which is about here somewhere. Oh no, over here. So basically this is the older version chassis, because it's a single one, the flat plate version as opposed to the stamped out version. So the shafts will be getting affixed into the housing. There's going to be quite a few mods done to this. There's lots of little things, but I'll take you for a run through with these a bit later on. This is the how the original motor mount would be. That would be sitting on here. So what we are doing, I modify and we put the brake onto here. So here's one that this is one I'm taking off, and I'm replacing it with one that I've already done some of the mods to. So basically this is what is happening with it. So basically this is a new product. You probably can't see it in this, but we've also done a black version. So this is the prototype one. So I'll put the prototype in this one for now. So this is a KR Kenpro / Daiwa 400-BG brake guard. So this is just keeping the grease and everything off the new position for the brake. So as you can see, there's a brand new cork pad down in here. This is one I get out of a high gain, which is a lot better cork. It's softer in a sense and more grippy, and actually can increase the brake torque of the actual rotator. So this will be screwed in with 3 screws and Loctited in position. So this will be the one that will be going in it. So this one's already been aligned and everything. And also to put the brake pad here, we have to put on, as you can see, spacers to drop the actual whole thing down a little bit further, 3mm. These are just aluminium 10 by 3mm flat bar, and they're drilled out, and I still use the original screws holes in here. I just put longer screws in. So this is what will happening, and also you may or may not have noticed, it might not be probably can't see it on this, but if you see on the black one, you can see a cutaway here. So when this goes in on the chassis, I'll get this in the right order, it is round this way, it sits up the other way of course. This is sitting here, and that just helps the gear, everything runs pretty close here. So as you can see, we can't see through there, the gear runs pretty close, the metal gear. The other one is sitting in that about that position, so it's about 1mm off the plastic gear, and it's about 0.5mm off the actual the big steel gear, the small steel gear. So that's some of the things that I'll be doing. Of course, we're removing I didn't bring them over. We're removing. I shall give that. I forgot something. Okay, we are going to be putting in a cover plate to take out the original terminal block. I hate these with a vengeance. So that goes. This goes in its place, and we put a proper plug-in socket. This is an LTW 7-pin socket. I like these because they mount from the inside, so you can pre-wire everything, and then you just basically pass it through the hole, and then you put a lock nut on the outside, and presto, that's it done. And if you want to service it, undo, remove, you haven't got to unwire anything. It has a neoprene gland on here, so that's, and there's the plug for it, LTW, as you can probably read on there, it says LTW. So that's something that is happening well as well, so which means we don't use this thing with this rubber washer, which is actually cracked and not working very well, and plus this one never had a terminal housing, so good opportunity to change it out. Also we are changing this. I'm jumping all over the countryside here. We're changing the 3-stack gear, this loose stacked 3 separate gears, replacing it with a solid gear. This is my new KD38T-7. So this is 1mm thicker than the 4-stack that you get in the KR-600. So this is 9mm as opposed to 8mm. This is only 6mm. These particular 3-stack gears chew the ring gears out really badly and cause major damage to the ring gear. The 4-stack one is slightly better, but they still move, separate, and do all sorts of crazy things. So basically, yeah, so it goes, and we put this solid gear in, and I have mentioned this before in other videos, and basically it says, so yeah, it's just a replacement, and it goes in with a new shorter bush to give you the right height. You probably actually can see, if I put this in here, it's taking up a lot more of the actual ring gear, as opposed to when you look at this one. If I make it level with it, I don't lose the gears in one big fell swoop here. So if I make a finger at the bottom, level with the bottom there, you can see how much we don't use of the ring gear. You know, so that is the reason why these chew ring gears out. That's hence why I made these. So let's see what else is going to happen. Of course, with the brake, this is the where is it? There's the original gear. Sorry, jumping all over the countryside. So that normally sat like this. Sorry for the flare out. and the pinion was on top, and the actual other way around, sorry, whoopsies, upside down I should say, that was on the top like that. That washer was like that, and the gear which meshes with that gear there, so this was all down through here. I probably should have showed you this prior if you don't, never seen one before. That goes down there and drives on that gear and moves up and down off the brake, up there like that. So basically when you want to service it, it becomes a pain because you've actually got to disassemble this whole brake assembly to pull the whole thing apart. To do a proper refurbishment and service, you really need to get that off to do a proper job. You know, it's easier to assemble from the bottom up as opposed to doing it from the top down. It's just hence why I'm doing it this way. So basically, I'm jumping over the countryside again. That gear will now sit in there, and it will move up and down within here. So if you want to service anything, you can just take the whole motor assembly off, service everything, and then put it back together again. So you don't even have to disassemble this unless you want to service the motor and all sorts of stuff. So that's another good reason. And I've got a minimum gap around this. So basically, this guard just stops the grease from all the gears which are just here from flying onto the brake pad and causing grief. So this is the modification I do. It's put the same way around. It's trimmed down on my lathe, and well, I screw it actually on. It's glued and screwed, so it's got two screws through, little short screws. So where the other one was only held on by this plate was only held on by a washer on top of the gear, on top of this gear. There was actually there's glue here. This is like a gel grip or something like that sort of gear, glue. It had a washer on it, and then there was a C clip or C or E clip that went through that. So they all become loose over time and cause cause noise because they do harmonics. So and move around, and sometimes they fracture. I can show you some of these. I will too. I'll show you some of these that are actually stuffed. When I find them. That was a good idea. Oh. I thought I had them just there, but I can't see them. Okay, doesn't matter. So we shall carry on. Jabba 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 jabba. What are they? Jabba jabba or whatever they say. But yeah. And the other thing is the motorcycle capacitor is being moved to the rotator. So I have a new bracket which mounts to the capacitor, and that will wrong way around. So that mounts like that, and that will be getting done, and I'll be showing that in next videos or the next link of these videos. So this is just a bit of a quick run through. It made a bit of a mess here, but of what is going to happen over the course of these videos. So okay, all good. I shall catch you in the next one. Sorry for all the jumping all over the countryside, but I've got to do things when I think about them. Okay, all good. Catch you in part 2. Bye. Okay, we're back. Righty-yody. I've now fixed. I've done all the bit. I have done a lot of the mods and bits and pieces. And here's the shafts that have been affixed into the bottom housing, and the bottom collars or spacers have been glued into position. So basically what I do with these shafts is I put a, if you probably come up with this, come on camera, focus, not going to focus, I get a cold chisel and I hammer in some grooves all the way around, evenly spaced, which makes the end of at the step there bigger, and gives it a sharp edge, and then it is actually pressed in. Actually, probably if you look close enough, you can probably see where it's been pressed in. I use my vise to press it in, and basically that makes it. And I actually put the top housing on to locate it. So I put the top housing on, which goes over this way. So basically, put the shafts in when they're half in, or sort of just pressed in, sitting in, and then do up the bolts. And then I, without the bits and pieces here, and then I basically press them in, and then I use, since these are protrude from the bottom, I then use a socket to physically make sure the shaft is going all the way through, which means it's got maximum strength and whatnot. So what else have I done here? I've put in the bottom hole for the cabling for the limit switches, and yes, that's basically all I've done with that one. So basically the top chassis is done. The limit switches are actually now mounted. I've got the hole for the wiring, so my wiring will come down through here. I'll have a tube in here to physically keep the grease and everything off it. I've actually done a semi-alignment with the actual limit switches. You can actually hear it going off. I'll probably do a bit more going through. I just got to bend the actual the arms on these roller limit switches or micro switches. So what else I've done here? So that's all happened to there, and that's all good. I've actually attached the my little bracket to the new or replacement or new old stock motor start capacitor. So I actually physically get there, and it's the side bits are actually folded into the holes, the grooves here, and I've actually go around and I fold the actual bits over the usually screws in them, roll it over, and I press them in, and it's like no more bolts and screws and stuff for that one. When I put in putting in these limit switches or micro switches, since it's a very tight fit on, especially on this one here, not the rest, I actually replaced the actual hex bolts, because you can't do the bolt up, with a socket head cap screw, an M6 socket head cap screw, which is slightly longer too as well. And the second thing I do with that is, since I'm putting the spacer in here, I actually replace the actual normal screws. So we end up having socket head cap screws all on the top of this. So they will just sit in like that. There'll be 3 of those. So one there, and the last one is just sitting in there, and it works better for here too as well. So yeah, so there's socket head cap screws in stainless steel for that. I think I've already showed you this is now all I've glued the actual screws in position, and this is ready to go. So basically that part was already done before, so and I probably showed you this, but that's what's going to be used for the gear, so I can actually sit back into there where it's meant to be. I've got the solid gear now sitting here with the rest of the stuff, and I've also cut down the back of the flange mount on this, because if I can get everything off here without, I'm going to lose it also. I take it off bit by bit. So I have to, since I want to get this in and out, it has to be able to pass through. I'll take the nut off. I've got to do a bit of trimming up of the gland, but it actually will pass through here now. I'll wet the gland on now. I'm removing the gland. I've got to cut the gland a bit, which I haven't done yet. So I better just cut a little bit off the sides, and then basically it's passed from the inside to the outside into the actual thing. So we'll just pretend to put this on here, so it actually ends up looking like that. And you just take it out, put it in, and I wire it accordingly. So basically it's got enough wiring, so you can put your hand down there to physically do this. So that's all made out of stainless steel. It's 1mm. Laser cut from a local manufacturer. I get stuff done by here. So what we're up to now, so I'm going to do some assembly parts and bits and pieces. I've got to take all this off. I'm replacing the potentiometer, and he asked me the customer asked me to hand back this one, and I'll refurbish this one if it's refurbishable inside. Otherwise I'll just give it back to him. So he's got a spare. So that's all going to be wired. This is all in good condition. I might just put a little bit of oil on each of the shafts here. So basically that's where I'm up to with this at the present moment. And so we can move forward. I can get this thing put that all back up there so it's out of the road. What else? There's not much else. So yeah, it's we're all moving forward, and so we shall see you in probably part 3, or unless I physically make another video. We'll see how we go, how our time goes. I'll catch up. Welcome back. Part 3 I think we're up to. Rightio, the motor mounting bracket has been now installed with the actual motor, the pinion guard and grease guard on here. So as you can see, I should actually show you this. Get the light right direction. So if I push this up, you'll see the gear moving up and down, and then when it's down it's hard to spin. Push it up, I can spin it really easily. So it's all in there, and I've aligned this whole thing so it's got minimum the same spacing all the way around, or very similar spacing all around. So that's all ready to go. That mere's happening and looking good. I've installed the potentiometer and the gear. I did a little bit of filing on the actual shaft hole. It was a little bit loose with this one, I don't know why, so I've actually tightened it up a little bit by just filing the hole a little bit towards this drive gear here. So that's been done. So the next thing I'm going to do is just do a dry assembly to then check that everything is okay, everything's lining up. So we shall put our KD38T gear on, the 7mm shaft. We'll put the next number 2, whatever the gear number it is, and then we put the next one on. And when you come to these ones, you can see there's a shiny part in there with a slight gap between it. That will line up with this here. When you look it down in here now, it's pretty much lined up as it goes. Whoop, wrong one. And then this gear is the same thing. It has a little bit of a shiny patch in it where the gear's been running. And then when you line up with that, it's sitting there perfectly. And this next gear goes in. This gear was replaced, so it's slightly out, but this gear was replaced. It was a bit tight. So this is a replacement gear, so of course it's not going to line up the same because it's a different gear. Anyway, so that's onto there, leave it back on there, and then we put our 2 spacers on. Grab our top chassis, line up the posts, turn the gear in here a little bit to engage the gears. That's all looking good. You can see I've got a little bit of movement up and down on this. I can sort of slide up and down. They're not too tight. And in all intents and purposes, I should be able to grab this here, and I should be able to turn it. There we go. Showing that there's enough. They're not tight or anything else, so they can move into this gear. Of course, I can move that one there. That's all the gearing down. So basically, all I'm going to do now is I'll disassemble this. I'll mount the motor to the top plate and basically grease everything up, and then I can reassemble, and I shall then do some wiring. So we shall catch you in part 4. Bye. Okay, we're back. Rightio. I have mounted the motor to the top chassis, and if you look through here and I push my finger on the bottom here, this up, get the light in the right direction, not just see it moving. So basically there you are. It's, if I actually do the same again, I'll grab a finger here on the gear, much light here, I can't turn it, but if I lift it up with my finger here, it spins, and if I let it go, the brake is way better on this one. The original brake slips a bit. You can actually visually turn it by turning the first gear. Okay, so there we are. That's all ready to go. I have greased all the gears up with molybdenum disulfide. They're all ready to go. Got the KD38T in there, solid gear. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to drop the wires through. I'll just put my finger in the grease, and we need to get this gear lined up. Yep, the gear is aligned now. Now I just snap it in. Righty-o. Grab the socket head cap screws. I don't really need it for all of them. I only really need it for this one here, but I'll replace all of them because the hex head will not fit in here. As you can see, it's pretty close. So I'll just quickly tighten these up. Grab the last one. I think I might have been out of camera then. Out of camera shot, I should say. Rightio. And plus putting a hex head spanner down beside that to try and do it up before you break the micro switch off. Rightio. Oh yeah, we're off and running. One thing I should do, now I've got this on here, we turn him over, spin him around, get my noisemaker, which I forgot to bring over. We undo the bottom screw, we install the motor start capacitor, then I get the bolt to line up. There we go. Righty at it. Right, I'm going to go off and do the wiring. I will be back. Okay, part 5, I think, or was it part 6? Whatever, doesn't matter. Righty. Okay, the rotator is now wired, and as usual, I actually install an extra wire, the yellow one here, for LED limit switch elimination in the controller, so when it hits the limit end stops, puts power back down here, other side as well, puts the 30 volts or 28 volts down back AC, and then you can convert that into a LED light that comes on when you hit limit. So there we are, all wired up, all new wiring. I'm using a new 5-core trailer cable wire here, all tin copper. So basically it's all the way through. I trimmed this off here, and so basically everything here is all stainless steel now. Not stainless steel, but I'll get it right in a minute. It is all tin copper. So basically there we go, all the motor start capacitors wired up. So basically there we go. So here we go now. So let's drop him into the lower housing. So basically all you need to do now is you just drop the actual socket through the end, there. Put a nut on loosely for now, and basically presto, put our screws back in again, and we're up and running in a sense. Get these all loosely put in here. I'm still working in front, working over the camera I am. Rightio, this is probably a bit boring, but it's all part of assembling these things. Righty-o-dy. Last screw. What's this? This one really close to the hot drive gear. Make sure everything's settled in. Yep. Noisemaker. And sorry about that. The poor mount doesn't like that, does it? Rather soft. This is all soft, this stuff. This is like a high intensity foam. This still vibrates the camera. Oh well. Righty-o-dy. Okay, I am going to go away and start greasing bearing tracks. So basically there we are, we have the socket in. I'll nip that up in a second with a, just basically saying if you ever want to service it, just undo it, push it through, undo the 4 bolts and lift the whole thing out. You can test it on the bench. Much better way of going. Well, Glitchkies, I shall catch you in whatever part we're up to. I've lost track. Catch ya. Okay, we're back. Righty-o-dy. I've actually put the ball, grease the tracks, the top. First thing you should always do is grease the bottom track first. Then turn it over, grease the bottom track first, and then you grease the top track and you install the bearings in the top track. So I'm going to install the bearing ring. Now I've already marked my positions between south and north, south being where for us in the southern hemisphere is where the limit switches are. So to south, it's already got a mark on here, and on the actual bearing ring I've already greased this as well with my lithium disulfate grease. Now I've divided the two hemispheres up, blue and red, and on this one, to get the rotation from north through to south each side, there's a mark on here, where we can't see it. That's my mark for the southern hemisphere, or the rotation point. So basically I've marked both sides so we know exactly where everything is. And I'm working around the camera here, so I've got to try and drop it over. Drop it onto the new KD38T gear, and as you can see in here, my mark, a bit more light in there, is on north for this is my halfway point in there, which is marked on the gear, making sure that it didn't move. Since I haven't got a controller for this and the customer is actually making a controller up, I'm just setting this up for just a halfway point. So basically that's where we're up to. So basically, as you can see, I'll turn him around, all our points mark up, or match up I should say. So there we go. So I'll have that one this way. So I've got the blue on this side for our rotation point. Regardless what anyone else does, this is what I do, because this rotation point is where your limit switch knock bar is, or knock block. Oh, that's your knock bar, knock block. So basically, always mark this up in half from the hole to hole and transpose those marks to here, to the outside, so I know exactly where I am. So it makes it easier for assembly too as well. So you just drop it on, bit of a wiggle, rotate over, and so now I've already had that already greased, so it makes it easier for loading up the bearings. And here's the bearings that I put in this little lid. This has 51 bearings in here, 14 on the top on a KR-400 and 600, and 51 on the bottom. And you do not use your hands to install bearings, and as you might have noticed over here, I've actually sectioned up. I've pre-greased the bearing ring, and I always use the non-labelled point where they're all raised points. I normally use this as my indicator point, so it's on a smooth surface, no other writing on there, so I use it as my rotation point. That's what I do. Regardless of what anyone else says, this is what I do. And my way is the right way, isn't it? That's how it goes, isn't it? Highway or the highway, or all those other sayings. Okay, so we'll load the bearings up. This is probably bearing, very boring, or bearing. Now I'm trying to be funny. That didn't work. So we'll load the bearings up. I'll bring it closer over here. I always use long nose pliers. You don't touch ball bearings with your fingers, regardless of grease on them or not. Your acids and oils from your skin can get onto the bearings. Just definitely do not touch them when they haven't got any grease on them. But what do I want to get grease all over my fingers for? Stuff that. Get on there. Well, I'm still within camera shot. Get on there. So you don't want to lift it up, otherwise you're going to have the whole lot cage coming out from the top. So I always keep downward force, so I don't actually lift it up. I just rotate it. And it's not exactly easy to rotate on this rough surface here, so you've got to have a good grip on it. No, it's not going to move and cause problems. I always like to keep the tray directly underneath, so if I drop it, it drops into there, hopefully. The bearing, that is, drops into the actual, back into the tray again if you stuff it up. When you drop a bearing out. So as usual, it wants to walk away on this rough surface I've got here. And it's already walked to the side. I'm out of nearly getting out of camera shot. There we go. So basically I use a small amount of grease in the tray, which you probably can't see. I'm pulling it out of a little tray which is just here. And I put a bit of grease in the tray via I use like a artist paintbrush, a flat one, and basically spread a bit around there, and then I pour the bearings in, and I then move them around with the paintbrush, making sure they're all coated. Oops, too far. And basically, then we're not touching them. I use the same painter's brush to paint the actual grease into the bearing tracks. There we go, we're nearly there. And also I've actually I put anti-seize in the 4 mounting holes, the threaded mounting holes, and I've also, I'll show that in a second, I've also put the anti-seize into the receiving holes here, because they are stainless steel screws that we are using, and stainless steel and aluminium technically don't like each other. Okie dokie. So we'll get my little tray out of the road, like my pliers. What are you out here? So I'll just move that aside for a sec. So I always coat inside the hole as well. I just noticed that one there didn't come up too well. And there's seeing more light down here, I just didn't get quite enough on the inside. So I just normally just put a little bit on the inside. I just noticed down in there's actually a bare patch, so I always coat this in there, and now I can see, because I wasn't under these big lights I've got here, so I'll just add a bit more, because the reaction, it transposes onto from the stainless steel onto this, and actually can jam the actual the screws into the actual bearing ring, and that's not a good thing when you try to pull it apart and use down the track. So plenty of anti-seize in the thread, but also in the actual hole as well. Oh yes, I'm using an old broken artist brush, and the end come off it, and I just use the stick end for doing the end of the thread. So let's just put a bit on there and just spin him around up and down. Well, I'll just show you what I do. Put a bit on the end of this, because it's small enough to go in the hole. Just and you go up and down, and then I always smear a bit onto this section here, because the electrolysis can transpose out onto the or work its way out onto this flat surface. So I always do a little bit like that, just so it gives you a bit more protection. Let's do that. I'd already done this, but I'm just showing you what I do. So put on there, because every time you pull this apart, there's a lot of electrolysis which is migrated out. Not so much down in these sections, but in this section here, because it's where the stainless steel is, and it just migrates from out from there. So there you go. Rightio, that's enough playing around there. Put that away. Rightio. Now, spinning back around, so I've got the north point of the blue line marked on this one. We now get our bearing ring. We find our blue point, or our blue marker. There we are. We drop him over without touching the sides if we can help it. Drop him on. give a bit of a wiggle, smearing that the NECs on those corners. I don't necessarily have to add any more NECs because I've already done the holes and everything else. So I put the, of course I didn't bring my noise maker over. That'd be about right. So I'm forgetting some tools again. One noise maker. And camera vibrator. Camera doesn't like that at all. Here we go. Rightio, we is done. Okay, so this is it's all set. I'm going to do a test on this. So turn it up the other way. I'm going to go and make sure it's all happy, and we shall catch you in the next adventure. Bye.